Hi, everybody. Welcome. It's great to have you with us here. This is our very special 8th annual Girl Power Hour. Now, normally, this is a luncheon with thousands of people screaming, and it's me, right? But it's so important and it's so worth it. And we've got a crowd in here that are all working hard for you and for those you care about as part of this hour. This is all in support of the Lionheart Foundation. And I'm going to show you a video a little later on of what the Lionheart Foundation is all about. But I want to talk a little bit about this very special hour we're all get to spend together now. First of all, the focus every year for the Girls Power Hour is for anxiety-based mental health challenges in young people. So I'm here today because I'm a host and this is what I do, but more importantly, I'm here today as a dad. I have 2 kids, a boy and a girl, and they're 9 and 7, almost 8. And the truth is, they're gonna go through adolescence and I have no idea what that's gonna be like, and it makes me nervous. And I feel so much better knowing that Lionheart is here and the people who are there running it is here to help me if I get into any kind of challenges with my kids when it comes to anxiety. And that's why we're all here, is because we're all dads and moms, sisters, brothers, and grandparents that say, we love these young people and we want to give them the best chance they can. So that's why we're here. So let me tell you a bit about what's going to happen and also how today is. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a pandemic. COVID has changed everything, including the stress levels of young people. So if you have adolescents who are already feeling anxious, for some of them, it got a whole lot worse. And Lionheart is there to help. So we're going to talk about how this pandemic has affected maybe kids you know or kids you love, and how you can help them. We have 2 great psychologists I'm going to sit down with a little bit later on who are part of Lionheart, and I'm going to say, what are you seeing? What can I do as a parent? How can I help? What are some signs? Is it going to be okay? And they're going to tell you all that you need to know about that whole world. Now, I know you're saying, fine, Dave, I want to donate. Well, of course you do. This is a great cause and well worth donating. Let me tell you how you can do this. There's a pledge button to the right of your screen. I just did the math. I think that's this way. See if there's a pledge button there. I hope there is. The Lionheart Foundation, any donations you make are 100% tax deductible. There are friends of Girl Power Hour, over 30 companies and institutions and people that have already been supporting this like mad, and this is how great they are. These people are willing to double whatever you give as a match. So if you put in $500, they'll put in $1,000, which comes out to $1,500. That's how good I am at math. So it's well worth it. Anything you can donate, they will double with their money, and it's well worth doing. So get in there and help all you can. Now, social media, it's very important if you can. We want to get the word out, especially to parents and young people who are feeling anxious, who are feeling stressed, and who may need help. So if you get out there on socials at GRL Power Hour, either on Facebook or on Instagram, either way, we want to build a social media presence and make sure they get people know. So post photos of the event. Maybe it's you sitting by yourself. Maybe it's you sitting with a loved one. Maybe it's you taking a screenshot. You don't want a shot of me though, really? But if you do, that's fine, because there's a prize. The prize are 5 gift packs from R&R Wellness Spa of Skin Urban Detox Kits. And even if you're living in a rural community, they still work out there. There's a gel pack and a $50 gift card with a total value of $150. Who doesn't want that? So get in there, get on social, and if you can help us out, that would make a huge difference for all of us. Now, if these are in Calgary, if you're out of Calgary, Peter Williams will walk to wherever you are in the world and hand you your gift pack. Okay, he's not going to do that. But we'll find a way that you can donate it to somebody here who you think maybe their skin could use a detox, and you can help them out. Seriously, the script is already right off the rails. Now, here's the thing. The Lionheart Foundation is such a great group, and I could talk about it, but it seemed easier to get 3 of the founders together on a video to talk a little bit about how it got started and what it's all about, and this is what they put together for you.
I am a parent of a fantastic, badass superpower woman. It wasn't always that way.
Lionheart is a charity that's really centrally focused on eating disorders, depression, suicidal tendencies, a whole suite of conditions that manifest out of anxiety.
What we were doing simply was not working. She needed help because it was serious.
20 years ago, 15 years ago, what organizations were working in the mental health space were very siloed.
It was so difficult to find anyone who had any expertise in the space.
We formed a plan after talking to professionals and realized how little we knew how to help her, except to get her the best professional help. And unfortunately, that was outside of Canada. We thought, what if we had no resources, we were single? What about those people who don't have that umbrella to fall under? Because if we can't do it, then it's a scary thing for those who are lacking resources.
We focus on raising the funds necessary to make sure that every family can afford best-in-class care.
It's evolved over time.
When the foundation started out, the charitable side was created to see that we could subsidize families, that we could fund training.
We wanted to expand and make a foundation available to other therapists who have trained with brain science, had the same modalities, the same philosophies.
It was important that we create a name that was more community-based.
Therapy is hard work. It takes courage and it takes a strong heart.
It is that combination of boldness and courage and strength with empathy, compassion, and sensitivity.
That's one of the reasons we're known as Lionheart Foundation. It's an homage to the people we serve.
We have invested a lot of capital in training therapists who specialize in the space with this unique population to be able to treat the unique conditions and do it as efficiently and effectively as possible.
We save families, we save lives, we keep families together.
I think it's very important that foundations like Lionheart are in place so that people realize I do need some help and I can reach out and someone will be there and I'm not alone. I'm going to work through this and walk out the other side stronger.
Many of these young women stand up and say, I wouldn't be here today. Likely, I feel I might have not lived.
We still have a long ways to go to really make long-term sustainable changes in how mental health issues are funded.
There will be a role for Lionheart now and for the next 20 years. The challenge will be never ending.
I do believe that Lionheart will be very strongly positioned to continue to help our community.
I'm very proud of it. I am so proud of it.
It doesn't just save a life, it's changing the direction of a life. And that's just the most rewarding thing.
That's so good. It's so good, and you get to be part of that movement. One of those people you saw was Peter Williams, and he's going to come join me here at the podium. I'll do this so that he is still safe and healthy. Peter, thanks. We'll just, how are you doing over there? You good?
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you to everyone for dialing in and giving us some of your digital time. It's precious, and we're going to do everything we can to make it worth the time spent. I was honored to be part of the video you just saw and telling the origins of Lionheart. But I also want to recognize the others, besides Julie, Robin, and myself, who've been just as much an essential part of the foundation, including Rick George, Gord Ritchie, Carol Ann Williams, Lois Sapsford, Bruce Barker, and the steadfast board members and executive directors of Lionheart. As we tread into the kids and COVID topic, I want to share a personal and very much a non-clinical observation on the subject. We have a granddaughter. She is 4.5. She's a bright, happy 4.5-year-old. In COVID, she talks to us earnestly about the virus. We've wondered what's actually going on in her head. What does the virus mean to her besides something invisible that has turned her life as she knows it upside down and has clearly turned her parents' life upside down in many ways? It brought back memories for me when I was, I think, 4 or 5. At the time, the Vietnam War was one of the big social issues, and I was too young to understand any of that. But what I was hearing was a lot of chatter about guerrilla warfare and how guerrillas in Vietnam were beating the Americans. I just didn't get it. How is it that guerrillas keep defeating soldiers and eventually actually kicking them out of the country? So I clearly had a disconnect, but I was afraid to ask the question. So I wonder what our granddaughter imagines the virus to be, and how kids and youth are processing the whole COVID experience, how they are internalizing things, and what questions they're not asking. Those questions are for the experts and the panel today. But it all circles back to the mental well-being of our kids when faced with anxiety-based mental health challenges. So kids have anxiety. We all have a level of anxiety. We get it. And anxiety in youth has been on the rise over the years. We get it. And it only stands to reason that COVID is another layer to anxiety for youth. Got it. What we don't get is that when kids need help to navigate their anxiety, families are on their own. The system does not address prevention or long-term therapeutic counseling for adolescent mental health. Full stop. The system is built to triage youth mental health only when it hits a crisis point, often requiring hospital care before it gets any level of attention. And then, once the adolescent is stabilized, they're often pushed back into the world without the longer-term therapeutic supports they require to rebuild their mental health. That's the system, and families only come around to understand it or to get it when they are in the thick of it. And that's why Lionheart and Girl Power Hour exist. We're working to ensure all families, not just those who can afford it, have access to the mental health therapy they need for their kids and adolescents, and that we help educate best-in-class therapeutic counselors to handle the demand for all families looking for help. I want to just thank those that helped put Girl Power Hour together. First of all, Patty Spencer from Annapolis, brilliant job. Couldn't have done it without you, Patty. The team who wrangle the sponsors and raise the dollars, Chad Harris, Greg Heath, and Jeff Hyde, thank you. Christina Berg of TD, who produced the brilliant pre- and post-show PowerPoint presentation. I encourage you to watch it. To the talented folks at E=MC², ProShow, Mar Media, and Kelly Brothers for orchestrating the event. And to our key speakers, Tasha Bellix and Danelle Spence, who have invested so much time and effort to make today what it's about to be. And the contribution of and advice from Jamila Edwards and Dave Kelly, surprise, surprise, for guiding and gliding us through the program.
Thank you so much. Look at, I found some cards, and I know that your brain was behind this. Tell me about what this is all about.
You know, Dave, we wanted to acknowledge we wanted to go analog to acknowledge some of our major sponsors, and just thought we'd hold up a few cue cards
to do that
and address that. And so I just want to start with Caltex Resources and Tom Bishke, Brett Rathel, and Brent Bracken. They've been lead sponsors for us since the very beginning, 8 or 9 years ago. So thank you.
You did really well on that one, Peter. Excellent job. Annapolis Capital. Peter, Jody Forsyth, and the team, thanks for leading the way since day one. Excellent job, Annapolis. Next.
TD, Drew McIntyre, Alec Clark, Bob Dorrance. They've been lead sponsors as well, like Caltex, and from the beginning, so thank you.
Next. Am I doing Jupiter or Venturion? Jupiter?
You do whichever one you want.
Oh, well, I guess I can. It doesn't matter. Jupiter Resources. Simon Bragazzi. What a great name. Can I say Bragazzi and team? Thank you for all the support, Jupiter Resources.
Prairie Sky Royalty. Andrew Phillips and team, you stepped up when we needed it most. Thank you.
Also, we want to thank, I'm not sure if I'm walking in and out of shots and driving camera people crazy, but it's kind of fun. Serafina Energy, Chad Harris and the team, thank you for the amazing support. Thank you very much, Serafina.
And Carve Energy, Derek Kriba, Bob Chasen, and team, You've been a big help, muchly appreciated.
And of course, we want to thank our friends at Venturian Oil, Kevin Wisa, am I saying it right?
Wisa.
Wisa, Wendy Patton and the team, thank you for your generosity over the years. Venturian Oil.
And finally, RBC Capital Markets, Greg Heath and his team, thank you for years of support as a major sponsor. Thank you.
And there's some other thanks we're going to get to, and we're going to put those on the screen here. But before we do, Peter, your kids are grown up. Why do you care? Why are you still doing this?
You know, once I think you live the experience, you never lose the passion for wanting to make sure that others that are going through it have the support that they need. And yeah.
I just think that's impressive because I have things as a dad where I'm in the moment worked at. But once the kids grow out of it, it's easy to forget. But I just commend you and all of the team to say, yeah, we might have grown out of it, but we know what it's like to be in it. And it's amazing that you still help people out.
Well,
it's so good.
Thank you. My pleasure.
We're lucky to have you and the group here. Now, we're going to put up on the screen things that I can read, I hope, because if we don't, I'm going to be inventing who I'm thanking. Oh, look at this. Our exclamation friends. We want to thank these people. Astra Oil Corp, ATB, and Athabasca Oil Corporation. Thank you also for being such good friends. B32 Exploration, BMO Capital Markets, and Canadian Energy Services. You're good people, and you're doing great work. Thank you. Canadian Plains, more. They're not boring, well, maybe, but they make money. And McDaniel, we want to thank all three of you also for being part of this. Meg Energy, National Bank Financial Markets, and Norton Rose Fulbright. Again, you are getting behind something worthy. Parex, Quadreel, and Secure Energy Services, thank the three of you very much. And Spur Petroleum and Strike, we want to thank you. What I realize, Peter, is I have no idea when this list ends. So,
well, we're gonna pivot into our voice friends, and want to acknowledge 32 Degrees, ARC Financial. I think that those slides will come up.
There they are.
Lake Castles and Graydon, Crescent Point, and Deloitte. We want to thank Halliburton, Lake Breeze Vineyards, and the McIntyre family, Midwest Surveys, New Vista Energy, Paramount Resources, the Post Hotel and Spa, Remington Development Corp, R&R Wellness, Spa, Rolling Hills Energy, 7 Generations. I want to also thank Smith & Anderson, SORE, Oilfield Services, Topaz Energy, Torque Oil and Gas, and Tudor Pickering and Holt. And the last slide, Dave, will pivot to you for the Power Friends.
You're a good man, Peter. Thank you. High Rock, Stikeman Elliott, and SunWest Aviation. We want to thank you very much, along with all the other folks who have private donors who have written in and sent in pledge money already to Lionheart. Wasn't Peter great?
Peter's amazing.
Well, speaking of amazing, we get to meet the executive director of the Lionheart Foundation, Jamila Edwards. This makes me smile a little bit because I know that when did you take the job of executive director?
February 3rd, so I think about 9 months ago.
And so therefore, when you took this gig, COVID hadn't hit yet, but that would be the majority of your time.
It has been, yes, yes. Well, they didn't mention it in the interview.
They didn't?
No.
Didn't come up. Well, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to set a timer,
Okay.
90 seconds.
Yeah.
We're going to find out everything you can tell us about the Lionheart Foundation, the work you're doing in those 90 seconds.
Sounds good.
I got a bunch of questions. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right, the clock is up and go on the clock. All right, Jamila. When you were hired by Lionheart, did they explain to you that your job would include being grilled by me in front of a camera and a national audience?
It was missed. It was missed. They didn't mention it.
Would you have changed your mind on this job at all?
Not at all. I would still choose to be here.
I'm so glad. What impact, okay, let's get serious, Dave. What impact has COVID had on the need in the community for what Lionheart does?
Well, yeah, no surprise, obviously, increased mental health needs. And so just a comparison, Lionheart is serving 70% more clients in 2020 than we did in 2019, and we can tie that directly to the pandemic, and we still have 2 months to go in the year.
And it's a stress. That's why we're glad. How important is this event today to Lionheart's total annual budget?
It is critical, Dave, 80 to 90% of our budget. So today is really important for Lionheart, yeah.
Did you hear that? You're so important. What is the number one thing Lionheart spends its funds on each year?
Subsidies for parents and for adolescent youth to get counseling.
And we're going to meet 2 of those counselors to get a sense of that, so it's worth it. Over the last 3.5+ years, how many hours of subsidies has Lionheart funded?
5,000 approximately.
Wow. I just read here that's $750,000.
$750,000 in direct subsidies.
That is so good. How much is of that does the government fund?
Unfortunately, zero. I'm
Right?
sorry to say, yeah.
Well, that's why today's important. So who are you subsidizing?
Adolescent youth and their families.
Oh, there's a buzzer. You keep going. Yes?
Aged, 8 to 28 typically, and those with anxiety-related mental health challenges.
It's so good. Let me understand, Lionheart. Let me understand. Does Lionheart pay the full amount of counseling?
No, not typically. We do assess based on need. This year, we've actually come a bit close to that,
Yeah.
but usually we assess on need, and then families will then kick in what they can on top of that, on top of our subsidy. Sometimes we also have a sliding fee scale that some
Right.
therapists would be generous enough to donate for us. So, yeah, we try to make it work.
That's so good. What is your second biggest expense and priority?
Training, capacity building. Obviously, we want to build a network of therapists who can do this type of work. So we spend a lot of energy and resources focusing on building a network and capacity building training of medical doctors, other clinicians who can serve anxiety-related disorders, particularly for youth.
Well, and we saw in the video earlier that there when Lionheart started, that didn't exist in Calgary.
No, we had 5 years ago, I
Yeah.
had 5 therapists or so. Today we're working with 13 and growing, obviously, yeah.
That's so good. So 13 now.
Yeah.
Is that enough, or do you need?
It's not enough. We know that several of our therapists actually are at capacity.
Yeah.
So we're actively working right now to enhance the number of therapists that we can draw on to make sure that we continue to meet that need that's increasing.
I got to meet some of your folks. The two we're going to chat with later, Teresa as well.
Yeah.
You're the executive director. There's a lot of people. Who would you like to thank or acknowledge?
Yeah, obviously I need to thank my team. Obviously, Teresa Winfield is our clinical director. She works really hard with the clients, with the families, making them a right fit with our therapists. Our therapists, we can do this work
Yeah.
without those people on the front line who are doing the actual clinical work. I have to thank the board as well for their tremendous support to what we do, and everyone else who makes today possible for us.
Well, and on behalf of, as a dad and my 2 kids, that I might be calling you someday, say, hey, remember that thing?
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people out there who will.
Yeah.
Thank you, and thank the Lionheart for the work you're doing to make our city and our country just a better place for people, especially if they're feeling anxious.
Thank you, Dave.
You're so great. Now stay with us. Don't go anywhere, because just to give folks at home, if you're watching, a sense of what is the work they do. We had some clients talk about the work that they experienced. Here's that.
To Jamil Edwards, Executive Director, Lionheart Foundation. Dear Jamila, and for the attention of sponsors, donors past and future, September 25th, 2020. I will begin by expressing my profound gratitude for the financial subsidy I received through the Lionheart Foundation during this era of COVID-19 for the purpose of enabling me to receive community-based counseling in Calgary. COVID-19 has been and continues to be so difficult for many. In my case, I've been struggling with the fact of an eviction due to COVID-19, a layoff from work, unemployment, and the exacerbation of a pre-existing struggle with clinical depression. I share these details not to be indulgent, but to illustrate the common real-life dilemmas that this funding is helping me to address, heal, and learn from. In short, the Lionheart Foundation subsidy made it possible for me to receive counseling at a critical time. I would not have been able to afford this otherwise. This support continues to be vital to my life. In addition to gratitude, I would like to share my testimony as to why supporting adolescent girls and young women in our communities and our access to mental health services is crucial. Indeed, we never really know, as the expression goes, the hand life will deal us. During my own childhood, I was challenged by the experience of financial, emotional, mental health, and addiction issues in my family of origin. I also experienced bullying, and the effects of these experiences, left unchecked and unassisted, so often result in destruction to the self-worth of young girls and women, as I experienced. Self-esteem, self-worth is not a trivial matter. It is not, for example, just about ego or competence. It includes what we believe we deserve, what we strive for or not, and how we care for or neglect ourselves. I can say that I would have loved and benefited from this kind of support in my teens. I did not have access to this kind of support at that time, and it is likely that I would have been happier healthier, and more confident, rather than self-critical and neglectful, had it been in my life at an earlier time. I am grateful for this support, which continues to enable me to find support and skill development, which is already shaping my self-perception, behavior, and worldview in positive ways. Myself, when I am gainfully employed in the future, I will make it a priority to support the Lionheart Foundation, or if I move out of this community, to support a kindred organization in my new community. I will do so not only out of gratitude, but because the creation of these resources for girls and women is life-changing for us, and by extension for our families, communities, and futures. Again, my thanks to those who have assisted me, and I wholeheartedly champion those considering supporting the organization to do so, if you find yourselves financially able to do so. Sincerely, E.H.
As parents, we did our best to raise our daughter to be a confident and courageous person of fine character, and we were succeeding. She was becoming an amazing teen, shining with promise. When anxiety began to disrupt her life and escalated to the point of hospitalization, we were caught off guard and felt helpless. With a renewed fighting spirit, we vowed to find the best support available. We roared with conviction that regardless of the cost, money was no obstacle because we'd do anything for her. We found the professionals our daughter needed so much, but the anticipated cost of the ongoing sessions turned our confidence into fragile, thin glass. We did what many parents do, secretly hiding our stress over the financial burden and sacrificing our future plans. Then the Lionheart Foundation came into our lives, and that weight was lifted. We were astonished that generous and caring strangers had donated their own money to help families like us struggling at our lowest point. With that financial support, we were able to follow through with the sessions our daughter needed, and she made it through. Our daughter is again as amazing as ever, shining with promise. If anxiety was the antagonist in our success story, then the Lionheart Foundation must be credited as a protagonist. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Wow. Isn't that just make you say that's why we're here? That is why we're here. There are kids out there, young people who are losing their way, and there are parents out there who are losing their minds, not knowing what to do and feeling alone and frightened. If that's you, you aren't alone. If you are afraid, it's okay. I would call Lionheart because they can help you out. And if you know people and you want to support them, now is your chance to do it. So, all you got to do, there's a pledge bar on the right side of your screen. What? Talk a little louder? I'm whispering. Is this hard to hear? Hi, everyone. So there's a pledge bar in the right. Here I am talking all heartfelt, and you're saying, that's great, Dave. Wish I could hear what you're saying. If you can donate, please do. There's a pledge bar there. Get in there and do it. And also, don't forget, there's a matching reminder. The Friends of Girl Power Hour. There's 30 plus companies and individuals who have gotten together and say, whatever you donate, they will take that money and do it again and again. So that's 1.5 times whatever you donate. If you donate $500, it'll end up being 15. It's well worth doing. Whatever your amount is, however you can help, please do so. And here's some suggestions for you. If you're saying, okay, exactly how much money goes to what and how does that work? Let me tell you a bit about how that works and how that looks. For $2,500, your 100% tax deductible donation funds up to 25 hours of therapeutic or nutritionist counseling. If it's $1,000, then that's all tax deductible. That will give 10 hours of therapeutic or nutritionist counseling. $500, $250, $50 tax deductible donation funds corresponding amount of therapeutic or nutritionist counseling, all for youth with anxiety-based mental health challenges. And if you're not sure what some of those might be, stay here because I'm going to be chatting with two people that are going to talk about exactly the kind of issues you see and how you can make a difference and help. All right. We also have giveaways, as I mentioned. I don't want to forget about our silent auction. Big silent auction. We have 2 items we're going to give away, and we're not quite giving them away. We're auctioning them away. The first one, world-class mountain resort experience at the Post Hotel and Spa in Lake Louise. Are you kidding? Look at that. That's just like regular pictures. That's not, there's no filter on those. And if you want to be part of that, that's at the silent auction item. You can do that. It's accommodations, 3 night suite accommodations, breakfast, dinner, a daily meal plan for 2, including in-room breakfast, and the famous Post Hotel dining room. That's award-winning, and they tried to estimate a value. It took too long, so we're just going to say it was priceless. You go to girlpowerhour2020.com to bid, and don't forget, it's 3 o'clock today. You got to get in there before 3 Calgary time, so get in there. The other one you can be part of if you want. There's only 2 items. The second item is also if you're a wine fan, if you're a vineyard fan, and if you're a BC fan. How about this? World-class vineyard experience for 2 at Lake Breeze Vineyards. Also closed at 2. Look at that. This could be you. You could be out there. Get in there and get bidding on it. It's a tremendous item. You will fly you there on WestJet Encore from Calgary. A $500 credit for 2 nights accommodation at Okanagan Area Hotel. Lunch on the award-winning patio at Lake Breeze. Private wine tasting and a case of wines to take home. Again, how do you put a value on that? It's impossible. Get in there and get voting or get bidding. Get those numbers up there because we want to make sure Lionheart can go on for as long as it's necessary, and that will be a while. So, we've been talking about this. 2 special people, Tasha and Danelle, are going to join us now. These are 2 Lionheart folks who are psychologists who are going to get in there, and they're the ones in the front lines, and I'm going to sit down with them and talk a bit about what they do, what they're seeing, and how you can be part of it if you want to help. I'm going to introduce Tasha first, and then we're going to get to more as that goes along. So it's so important, and these are the people that are actually doing the real work. We want to support them, but also we want to make sure we listen. So before we meet Danelle, let's bring Tasha first. Let me talk a little bit about her. Tasha Belix, registered psychologist. Her specialty is youth and families for 20 years. She's the author of What Do You Do with a Feeling and the founder of Between Girls programs. We are so grateful and lucky that she is here, and she's going to start us off. Let's hear a little bit from Tasha. Hey, Tasha.
So I've been working in the trenches of youth mental health full-time for the last 7 months, and I've never sat across from so much sadness in my entire career. I have witnessed many brave souls take off their mask to share some of the inner world that they really keep to themselves. And I've put together their voices and their hearts into a letter. And so what I did like to invite everyone to do is to put one hand on your heart and one on your belly, and to take a deep breath in and slowly let it out. And close your eyes if you feel comfortable to do so. And I'd like you to imagine your child or your grandchild or a young person that you deeply care about sitting in front of you. Imagine these are their words. Dear Mom and Dad, I'm not doing okay. Last March, the world ground to a halt due to COVID-19, and in a moment, I was thrust into troubled waters without a map to follow. I can't let go of longing for the life that I used to have, and the life that I always dreamed of having. I've lost my structure, routine, and predictability. This is really hard on me. I feel lost. I need you to be my compass to look to help me make sense of how I feel. I can't do this on my own. I might not tell you how angry I feel about the changes in my life because of the pandemic, or that I feel sad about losing my lifestyle. I feel really confused and even a bit scared about what the future is going to look like after COVID. This stuff is constantly going through my head, and I feel it in my body. I need your help and your connection to figure this out. Please don't distract me from feeling this yucky stuff. I need your guidance to navigate through the storm, to hear all of my questions and big emotions without taking it personally, so I can come out the other side being able to cope with whatever life brings. Some people talk about the silver linings of COVID-19, to be less busy, have more family time, a quieter schedule. But when I slow down and I'm alone with my thoughts, I feel so out of control. I feel panic. I'm obsessing about things, a constant chatter of intrusive thoughts that throw me off course and cloud my thinking. My mind keeps me up at night. You might have me asking if I can sleep beside you again like I did when I was little, to be close to my person because I don't feel safe. Help me to understand that I'm not crazy for feeling this way and to find a way to manage. Other times, I just feel numb. This is the scariest place to be, to not feel connected to my body. If you see cut marks on my arm, ask me about them. Don't let your own fear stop you from naming what you see. Without support, it will get worse. Tell me to get off my phone. Talk to me. Poke me even if I snarl back. If you don't ask how I'm doing or share your concerns and how something just feels off in your parenting spidey senses, I actually think you don't care. No matter what I say or how I behave, I need you in my life. I need to freak out every now and then, and I need you to be there in my messiness and to validate me in the moment. You are acting differently too. When I can tell you're stressed out, I'm not sure that I can come to you. I follow your lead. If you don't show me that you can handle your own issues in a healthy way, how am I supposed to handle mine? Show me that help is not a terrible four-letter word. Don't accidentally let your own anxiety and avoidance land on my shoulders. It's not mine to hold. I watch what you do and how you manage your stress more than what you say. I am so ashamed of how I feel. I tell myself I shouldn't feel this way, that other people have it far worse. So I hide. I hide in plain sight. I spend all my energy looking perfect on the outside, pretty, popular, driven, top marks, the kind of teen that no one would ever worry about. But I am performing a life, not living a life. I don't know how to take off the mask. I am suffocating. Help. Love, your child. And I'd invite you to take in a deep breath and slowly breathe out. And just notice what you notice. Is there a sensation in your body or a feeling that's calling to be noticed? And I want you to hold on to that. That's really important. And I'd invite you to open your eyes and come back to the space. And just like the weather systems that we have in Calgary, I've also felt other winds. I've seen so much intuitive healing, it's quite impressive. I've seen connection despite social distancing. I've seen ways for people to savor and harness the beauty that's in everyday life. I've seen passions get exploded and explored, and family time where people get to settle and really get to know each other, get to really know their friends, their values, and what it's like to just be in their own skin. The essence of a strong community that responds at times of stress is to anticipate what's just coming around the corner and to act with urgency. This is not a time where we want to be on autopilot. We all have to do something to step up so that the youth of today turn into the youth of tomorrow that have hope and promise for their future. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you, Tasha.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks so much, Tasha. I mean, when I didn't have my hand on my heart and my stomach, I was writing a bunch. I have a bunch of questions that we're going to get to chat with her a bit. Before we do that, though, we're going to meet Danelle. So, Danelle, Danelle is also a registered psychologist. Her experience is working with youth and families also for over 25 years. She wrote 7 Simple Steps to Understanding Your Teenager. Just kidding, that's impossible. How's that for a title? Her experience in children's hospitals, schools, eating disorder clinics, adolescent specialist center, and private practice. And she's here now for you and for all of us, just for a bit of insight. Come on up, Danelle, thanks.
When I was asked to prepare 5 minutes of content here, I kept coming back to one thing: how significantly important your role is as a parent right now. And when I say that, I know you're thinking, oh great, that's so much pressure, what if I say or do the wrong thing? And I recognize that, but I also know that you as parents have the most powerful neurocircuitry and innate capacity to influence your child's well-being in a very positive way. I also think it's absolutely necessary right now, especially with the long wait list to see a psychologist and the fact that most mental health resources are saturated right now. I hope I can offer a few things to think about. I want to start with a quick anecdotal. I had a parent come in to pick up their daughter, and she was asking what I thought about moving her to homeschooling. She then continued to talk quite anxiously about the recent school outbreaks. She pulled out her phone and started reading me some alarming death stats. And she said she wanted to ensure her child didn't accidentally get grandma sick. All while her daughter, who I am seeing for anxiety, was listening, wide-eyed. Now, it's definitely okay to talk about COVID. However, you need to ensure that you are mindful of the content of your conversations, the frequency you're having them, and perhaps the news stories that are going on in the background. Kids make sense of things so much differently than us as adults with fully developed brains. They can't attach the same logic, reason, or critical thinking that we can. What they'll do instead is overthink about it, they'll feel anxious about it, or they'll internalize it as fear or worry. Try not to let your anxiety plant seeds of anxiety onto your child. If they see that you are stressed out, then there must be something to be stressed out about. You can acknowledge, absolutely, that you're unsure, you're scared yourself, but that you're absolutely capable of taking care of them and their feelings. I want to share another quick story. I had a 17-year-old say to me pre-COVID, everyone was so busy and overscheduled that she could kind of blend into the background a bit. She opened up about feeling quite anxious and lonely and was heading into the eating disorder world a bit. And that really scares me, as we know eating disorders have the highest mortality rate out of any mental health disorder. She went on to say that she often skipped breakfast. She took money for lunch but wasn't going to buy lunch. She said it was easy to get away with because there was no eyes on her. Everyone was just, again, so busy. With the lockdown in March, she said that sure changed. All of a sudden, her parents were always around. Her mom made her lunch every day. Her dad would bring her snacks when she was doing her schoolwork. She couldn't disappear. And this just isn't about parents making her meals. Her mom was noticing her. Her dad was asking about her friends, and he was genuinely interested. She said the lockdown, although it was difficult, had the positive effect of making her a lot closer to her parents. She felt seen and understood and less lonely. She was no longer heading down that eating disorder path. And her parents weren't even aware she was heading there in the first place. So let's use this time to see our kids, emotionally connect with them, be curious about their worlds. This can be an amazing opportunity to do so. Sometimes it's not what you do as a parent, but who you are to them. So be that person they come to when they need someone to talk with. I want to wrap up by saying, and I would say this with COVID or without COVID, be as present and available as you can. Turn off your technology, try to spend more quality time with them. I know it's a challenge right now with people working from home and trying to find that good work-life balance. And perhaps there are new financial or career concerns as well. So I get how hard that can be. However, your kids are more likely to come to you with a concern if they see you are present and available, and if they see you're not overly stressed out yourselves. Yes, children's emotional well-being will be impacted and influenced by this pandemic. but family can even be a more powerful influence. So work on ensuring you take the time for your well-being so your kids don't feel they have to take care of you, and you can continue to take good care of them. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Danelle. I know at home you are watching this and I was watching this, but this is what's amazing. During that entire talk, Tasha was building chairs and she has redone the entire set. So through the magic of what Tasha's able to do, we're going to take a very fast break and you watch and see. We're all going to be sitting here because of her. Did you see that happen? First of all, we should thank Tasha for setting this entire space up. Thank you so much for
You're welcome.
That's what you do. Talk a little bit about, I have notes on both your talks, so thank you both very much. How does Lionheart play into, for those that are wondering, a counseling session? What happens?
For sure. So Lionheart is it's a charitable organization that can actually step up to subsidize a family where getting really good counseling for their child or adolescent is tough to afford. So
they'll help them out.
They will help them out.
So if you're watching at home, this is what they do. And if you're thinking of either you need help or could they use some donations? Yes, they could. So that's worth doing. You talked a bit about the state of COVID and does it make things worse? Can you talk, and I'll pick on you a bit first or after, but tell us a bit about what's the state of kids in general?
I think it's a mixed bag. I don't know anyone that hasn't been impacted on some level by the pandemic. Our world has really been turned upside down. And I think young people that were possibly already struggling, it's helped to magnify some of the symptoms that are already there. And for people that maybe thought that their mental health bumps were in the past, it's kind of woken up some of that. Those old patterns and behaviors have kind of come back to the forefront. So a lot of people that I would have probably thought I will never see them in a counseling setting again have reached out to say, I'm not doing very well, I need to come back.
How has it been in your world?
Well, my practice is relatively new. I've just reinstated my practice. I guess that's maybe not the word, but I'm shocked by the amount of calls I'm getting. I would say 2 or 3 emails every other day. And, you know, it's just, I find that like when I'm receiving those emails or those calls, I'm like, I can't right now, but maybe in a couple months, and then I get a couple more. And then when I reach out to my colleagues, they're also feeling that. Yeah, so it's alarming.
And do you see that, like even the virus itself, where there are these waves, do you see it waving, like is it gonna grow in as much as you can? Because I mean, some of these things will take a while to set in.
You mean the mental health waves that we're seeing?
Well, will it follow the actual health waves? So, for example, are there people now out there who aren't actually exhibiting signs, but in 6 months or whatever, 2 months, they will? Do you think that's possible?
I think that we have not even seen the truth of that kind of shadow of what's happening with the mental health because of the pandemic.
Really?
So most young people, they've had to get used to not going to their sports in the same way. Graduations haven't been the same. What it's going to be like when you go off to university is very unknown, or you're doing it online. So like it's such a different landscape. And so people are getting by, they're making the best of things.
Yeah.
But what's showing up at counseling offices, doctors' offices, the hospital is a lot of people that are really wobbly and not doing well. And it's not because of COVID in particular, it's the uncertainty and the unknown that goes along with what COVID has presented us all with.
And are there, I mean, you did talk about it, are there silver linings? Is it, you both talked about it, is there at least, as a parent, can I go, well, okay, tough things, but is there silver linings in this?
Absolutely. And I think we have to actually make ourselves look at a lot of the silver linings and talk about them each day to remind ourselves, no, there's good in our life. I think probably one of the most exciting silver linings that I've experienced is just how innately resourceful people are, where, you know, everyone's getting out and saying hi to their neighbors and whatever, making their cinnamon buns and learning to knit and
Yeah.
taking up poetry. And like, I am not someone who I would consider to be like sort of a poetic writer. And when COVID hit, I was like writing and drawing pictures, like at night, like lighting a candle, like there's hope in this world. And that was my story of how I
Right.
like got through it. But over and over again, little people, young adults, parents are dipping into, I'm back playing the guitar again. I'm finding myself rereading Harry Potter for the 8th time, whatever it might be. So there's really beautiful moments where people have found ways to connect in really meaningful ways, which keeps our spirit positive.
Yeah. Have you found?
Yeah, I would just add, I'm finding the
Yeah.
same thing. And I've always talked about how, and I touched on it with my 5
Yeah.
minutes there, but that we need that downtime. We need the boredom. We need to, sit with ourselves and reflect. And especially with teenagers, that self-reflection of how am I doing? What am I feeling? Like mucking around in that emotional content when we're just going, busy, 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 then we don't have that internal reflection to know what am I feeling, what do we need to do with this feeling, and then that makes anxiety decrease and moods improve. So.
All right, then let me hit you with my, really, let's face it, this whole thing is for me. I'm doing this entire conversation to counsel
We know,
me.
Dave.
I know in our family what shot through the roof, and we tried to limit it the first week, and then it's like, get your iPad, because I'm like, I ran out of things to do. So technology's going up, and I know for people that have teenagers, they're on their phones even more. You talk about boredom. What's your sense of technology? Either one, or we can both talk, but what, like, is it, do I just need to feel guiltier, or what do I?
Yes, lots more guilt.
Good.
But no, technology, like I have such a love-hate relationship with technology because we know all the kids are homeschooling or doing a lot of meetings through Zoom, and parents are on the technology. And so it's just not eliminating technology, obviously, outside of school and work, but really limiting it. And so things like having tech-free dinners and no
Yeah.
tech in the bedrooms and that sort of thing would be super important to kind of put it aside, reset, be mindful, be aware, be in the present, because we are on it significantly more than we were
Yeah.
back in March.
I know I am.
So.
Yeah. And I would say let yourself feel a bit guilty as a parent, where you're like, that gut part of you is like, I'm pretty sure 10 hours of iPad time is too much. And I say that jokingly.
Yeah.
Through COVID, we had a 6-hour limit a day, right? Because I'm like, what else do you do?
Yeah.
But when we intuitively know, I think this is too much, it's worth getting in a fight to say, I don't care if you scream for 3 hours. I don't care if you stomp around the house saying you're bored. You actually need to have a break from interacting with something that's not human. And so, like, little developing brains need time with other people in real space and time. And so, as much as it's nice to connect online and we can do international talks and have grandparent dinners at Thanksgiving with someone who's back east, we actually have to interrupt some of that screen time as parents to jump in to be our kids' friend if they're not getting to be with their friends in real time the same way.
And I want to say too that the guilt, and we absolutely recognize that we're doing the best we can, right? And offering some grace of, okay, yes, I put my 5-year-old behind an iPad for an entire Saturday, and I'm mindful of that as a parent. But tomorrow, you know what, we're going to go on a hike. We're going to go be present. We're going to connect. But allowing some of that grace, because I know parents are overwhelmed and stressed and maybe working 3 jobs, or so there's just being kind, that self-compassion as parents through this, right? Because we're all trying to figure it out.
I want to talk about brains, but you mentioned boredom. And I know for myself, I'm not good at being bored, because if I get bored, I got a phone with the entire world on it, so I can just go. How important is boredom?
It's essential, and you're not bored when you're hyper-stimulating and hyper-arousing your nervous system. When you're flipping through, then you're not actually internalizing, you're not reflecting, you're not making space for yourself. What am I feeling again? And so that's not boredom.
And so, but boredom is a key. That's okay. If my kids are like, I'm bored, it's not my job
It's essential. So boredom is where we allow ourselves, we dip into our right brain where we naturally feel our emotions and have the ability to calm down our emotions. So this is where we get creative. So, which is a natural way where we all heal.
Yeah.
And so without a little bit of boredom and a bit of space to start dipping into that right brain stuff, you never get a chance to really learn how to internalize coping strategies that will last your whole lifetime. It's essential.
Huh.
It's essential.
And parents always, they try to short circuit that process, and they'll be like, you're bored, here's a cardboard box, here's some felt markers, make a space station. But you want them to, as Tasha was saying, like just pause and go, what is it? How can I activate my creativity, my imagination, my play? That stuff is very important for wellness, for overall wellness. So
getting out and outside is a start.
Yeah.
Yeah, just being in nature is really soothing to our nervous system.
You mentioned brains.
Yes.
Because when you said developing brains, in my head, I automatically think a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old. But what is an adolescent brain about?
well, your brain is still developing.
Ish.
I'm just
It's
tried to
trying. It's trying. But what's going on in an adolescent brain that parents need to think about or know?
Oh, I could go on for,
Yeah.
I know both of us could, but
The nuts and bolts would be it's more emotional than ever before. So you're going to have more limbic activity. So you're going to see the highs and lows. I might not be able to control the words that come out towards you. It's harder when I get triggered to be empathetic to why you're part of the situation, right? I'm not really in a place always to really problem solve, but that's okay. That's I actually need to be messy, and I actually need you when I'm not in touch with that kind of prefrontal cortex that goes, take a deep breath. If you send that text, you're going to regret it tomorrow. That's where I need maybe that older, wiser, smarter person to come beside me and actually help me calm down so that I can maybe get another person's perspective and decide a different way that I want to approach problem solving.
And being a teenager, that's the most beautiful time in brain development to practice good, healthy neural connections and good, healthy habits, because it's under such reconstruction. And it's also the best time to unhook unhealthy patterns. So that's why when I get a 14-year-old in or a 16-year-old, I'm like, right on. Their brain is so neuroplastic, and we can really shift patterns and shift things that are going to get them in trouble as adults.
And is it okay? I'm assuming it is, because then they're going to say things. They're going to say things they're going to feel hurtful, or going to feel immature, or going to feel whatever. It seems to me then it's important for me to go, this is a developing brain, and my job is to help that developing brain, not fight it.
Yeah. I always think of parenting as provide consequences and provide structure, but always to teach and grow the brain rather than to punish or to shame or to cause pain. So now it's the perfect time to guide and yeah, like just really being mindful that, okay, impulse control, not quite online yet.
Right.
Okay, the capacity to resist urges, not quite online yet. And how do I teach and grow the brain rather than, punish it, I guess.
I feel like I do that with my kids, and they're younger, but if they're having a tantrum, I'm like, well, I talked to you about this, so it should be done. We shouldn't have to deal with this anymore. But then I remember, I'm going to do this for a while, and
You're
that's
going to do it for a while.
Yeah.
And even teenagers have temper tantrums.
Yeah.
And they should.
Yeah.
Because they're feeling big, and we don't want to shove down emotions. We want big emotions.
What's your advice to parents if I have lost my job, or it is creating tension at home, or I'm realizing when they come for bottle pickups, I'm like, well, I've certainly been through enough wine in the last week. What's your advice to us with our feelings and having kids in the same house?
Be very aware that how you show up, you have to know that your kids are looking to everything that you do. Like if I'm a child, and that could be someone who's 25, who needs to reach to my big person for support, if it looks like you are not holding it together, I'm not going to actually come to you. So it's like if there's stuff that you're like, I'm not really processing this super well, ask for help, talk to somebody, go talk to your doctor, talk to a friend, make sense of your own, holy moly, I've got 7 bottles of wine every week that I'm putting out in recycling. this isn't good,
Right.
right? Because I'm modeling when I'm overwhelmed and I'm stressed, I'm reaching for something external
Right.
to soothe my system. And substance abuse has really ticked upwards across the board through COVID with the adolescent population as well.
Is it true that kids will, I've heard that if I act like my problems are big, a kid will go, I can't come to them with problems because their problems are big. Is that what you?
That's the number one. Whenever I'm seeing an adolescent, I say, how come you're not bringing this to your mom? Like, go talk to your dad. He's there. He's available. And they say, I don't want to add to their plate. I don't want to bother them. And I'm like, yes, bother them. You should. You need to bother them. But they don't. They go, I'll take care of it. And we don't want them to do that. We want them to go after you.
Right.
But and I know you wouldn't be saying like, please don't bother me.
Right.
But they just pick up on it, and they go, and they will say, they have enough on their plate. They're stressed out.
Wow. Okay, I have 1,000 questions, but
Yeah.
help me understand when we're dealing with stuff as best we can and we're going to get through it as best we can. When does it tip into, okay, there's behaviors here that are trouble. I need to be more aware of this. Either one jump in and the other one I'm sure will add.
Sure, I'm going to speak a little bit to a younger person.
Sure.
And so this is, I'm thinking sort of late elementary, sort of junior high-ish, that what often you're hearing is a lot of, I'm asking for reassurance.
Right.
Like, are you sure are you sure that's not going to happen? And parents kind of get into the role often of sort of accommodating some of all the worries that come up, because I just have this kid that's sort of the super feeler, and this feels normal to do this. It's really hard to fall asleep at night. Lots of that, and even sometimes it's body feelings. I have a tummy that bugs me every Sunday night, or I'm saying I don't want to go to school, I don't want to go to school. And I think what has been really tough with anxiety, often with anxiety we actually want to face it, because it's our brain kind of having a false fear to something that shouldn't really hurt us,
Right.
like going to school where people are generally pretty nice. But because you can do the online option, some people are, I'm letting anxiety be so bossy that I'm not doing the thing that actually would help my anxiety around going to school get smaller. And so there's a place where I think parents also kind of need to give kids a bit of a push and name what they're seeing.
What's your sense?
Well, and just to tag on to Tasha, the school, like grades decreasing. So I'm thinking teenager, grades 6 to 12, like just a shift in academics, a lot more withdrawal. So going into their bedroom a lot more, just shutting down, just like really picking up on, as Tasha said in her intro, the spidey senses. If they feel like something's going off, then it likely is, and so ask. So marks on the arm, marks, like cutting marks anywhere on the body, ankles included, just ask. Going to the bathroom after supper, like to be mindful of eating disorders and just seeing how long they're in the bathroom for, and asking, like really mucking around and what is going on. And
that feels
some of those.
scary though. Like, and I think as a dad,
Yeah, it
first of
does.
all, I would think, okay, I'm embarrassed, or it's a hard conversation.
Yeah.
And does this mean I failed, or does this mean they're failing? Like, there's a lot of shame and guilt and all.
it's a hard conversation, but do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's so many clients that I've worked with where they're like, I started to see things last year. I was mindful of this, but I didn't say anything, because there's that fear that if I say something, it's going to make it worse, or I'm going to say the wrong thing, and say the wrong thing, but then learn and come to someone like Tasha or I or anyone from the Lionheart to get that support and that education and those scripts and the how do I do this and what do I say differently, better, more of, less of.
Yeah.
The parents need that guidance and that coaching. And
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And it is scary, but do it anyway, and you can do it. Like we believe in the capacity of parents
Right.
to do this work.
That's
Sure.
heartening, because I feel like it's easy for me to, because shame is such a player in all of this.
Yes.
It's such a fearful thing. Okay, we have to go, but
Yeah.
If somebody thinks, okay, I need help and I'm alone and I'm scared, where do they go? Who do they talk to? What do they do?
I would say step one is to step out of some of that shame you were talking about.
Yeah.
Because it keeps problems in isolation.
Yeah.
So I need to reach out and get some help. I think connecting with a family doctor is always the best place to start.
Sure.
They're super knowledgeable with mental health issues.
Yep. And they can lead. And is Google?
Yeah, I would say Google. I mean, referrals from friends, do you know, and that's why coming out from behind the shame and saying, hey, my daughter's struggling or my son's doing this thing, and,
Yeah.
and talking to friends and family who, if they know of anyone. But Google, Psychology Today, doctors, of course, but asking around and coming out from behind the shame and getting the support.
So there's shame issues, which all of us, it's hard to have hard conversations. And if part of that hard conversation, if you're watching, is financial, that's where Lionheart helps. So don't feel like there's any reason to not reach, because there are people who are willing to help, whether it's a financial or just to say, how about this, or go there. You're both so great. Thank you so much for taking the time to think this through, but also for being out there and really making a difference. It's so great of both of you to come.
Cool, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, it was the best. And I have a couple of thank yous that I want to make sure we get to as well. So many people were part of making this happen. First of all, I want to thank the friends of Girl Power Hour. You know who you are, and without you, this wouldn't happen. So thank you for being such great friends. And also sponsors. If you're thinking, fortunately, I don't have kids in that situation, but I want to be part of the movement, then give Lionheart a call and say, I'd like to contribute. There's obviously a lot of ways you can do that, so we would love for you to help out in that way. Anything that these two have talked about, books, articles, their books, lessons, it's all on the Girl Power Hour website. It's easy to find. If you Google Girl Power Hour, it'll show up. So there's lots of resources there for you. And also this talk and this whole day is going to live online. So if you want to review something, or if you know there's somebody that could really use this, send them a link, tell them about it, come out of your shell for them because it's important, and there's people out there who are willing to help. I think I've covered everything I need to cover. Just as a dad, I want to thank you guys. Someday it's not just going to be a talk like this. I know I'm going to come to you and say I want help for me and I want help for my kids, and hopefully you're feeling similar. If you need help, it's there, and it's going to be all right, and we'll find our way through one way or the other. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Have a great day.